In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Andycine A6 Plus touchscreen 4K monitor. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to Tech with Brett, where I help tech work for you. Andycine reached out to me and asked if I wanted to try out their 4K touch monitor, and I said yes. I have this Panasonic GH5 that actually has a broken LCD on the back. It got some water exposure, so it stopped working, and so I want to test this out with this because it has been pretty difficult. I have it plugged into a big TV over here to see what the camera is seeing, but this will solve that problem. This will also be helpful with other cameras like many of the Sony cameras that don't have the flip out screen. I'll also be testing out with my Canon 80D as it gives you a much bigger screen than the little panel here on the side. So looking at this, it is 4K, it's touch, 3D LUT, OCR, in and out, DC out. I don't understand a lot of these terms, but we'll do our best here today. And then here it does have a histogram, the peaking filter, false colors, exposure, pixel to pixel, zoom in, embedded audio, image freeze, anamorphic mode, as well as check filled. So I don't understand all of these terms. I'm actually gonna link a video from the Everyday Dad that he goes a little bit more into what all this stuff is and understands more about cameras. So I'll link his video below, but today's gonna be all about my thoughts and impressions on how this works. So first here you have a little strap around the outside to help with shading. So there is the monitor itself. Inside the box we also have a cleaning tools, some instructions on getting it set up, as well as you have this clamp for the shade panel. And then we have a HDMI to micro HDMI, as well as you have a mount to mount it onto a hot shoe. And they also sent over a battery pack for the Canon 80D as well as the GH5. So depending on the camera you have, you may want to pick up one of these. So looking more at the actual device here, that is a pretty big display compared to the GH5 here. So we'll test that more fully. And then down here on the bottom, you have the SD card slot, you have the DC in, you have the mounting threads, and then a headphone jack. And then here on the side, you have HDMI in, HDMI out, the DC out 8 volt. On the other side, you have a scroll menu, a touch on and off. And then here you have another thread for a mount. And then on the back here is where you can place on the battery. So I'm gonna get this set up, test it out, and then give you guys my final impressions. All right, so I've now been using the Andycine 4K monitor for a few months. I'm ready to tell you everything I learned and all of my impressions about it. So the very first step and problem with this device was being able to power it up. It wasn't really clear on what to do. So it does have a DC 12 volt input here on the bottom, which I definitely need to pick up a cable to power it because I mostly use this camera sitting here in my room. I don't need an external battery. But I didn't get one of those. Is what you have to do is you can use two different battery types. So you can use a Canon IPE6 battery, which I used on my Canon 80D, or you can pick up a Sony SNP battery and power it as well. And apparently they're really big ones. I couldn't find any, so I ended up just using my Canon battery. So to plug in the battery, you make sure that those two prongs are going to line up with the prongs right over here. This is pretty simple stuff, but this is all the problems that I was dealing with in the beginning. Sometimes you'll need to push that down to get it to go all the way over. Once you have it all the way over, you should see a red light here indicating that it's on, but sometimes you have to move it back a little bit this way. So you can see as I slide it, there we go. So I had to slide it a little bit off so it's not all the way pushed up on the edge, and then there the light turns on and now it's ready to be turned on. These little things that came with it, these are dummy batteries. So what you can actually do is now that I have this plugged into the back of the monitor, I can plug this in the output, and then I could have this be plugged in and power my GH5 as well, all from this one battery. Well, the problem with that is this battery is not very big, so your monitor and your camera are gonna run out of battery very fast. So this is really nice to have in case you only have one battery that you could power the monitor and your camera with, but the battery life is significantly less, so I didn't end up using these at all. All right, so now that we have that on, need to add it to this mount, and I'm going to place it on the hot shoe. So just like that, it slides in, I can tighten it on. One of the main problems that I do have with this device, I'll just get right to it, is this mount. After putting it on, tightening it all the way up, I would be moving around, and after just moving a few times, it was heavy enough and it would fall right off. And so I dropped this a few times. So I wish this mount was a bit better. If you do end up picking up one of these monitors, I would recommend something like this, where you have the hot shoe mount and then you can just mount the monitor right onto here instead of worrying about this arm, as it doesn't work very good. It does have a hot shoe on the side here, so I could put my mic or something on here, but it just didn't work really great. Okay, now that it is on, I'm going to power it on up here at the top. So here on the GH5, I just needed to use a regular HDMI cable to plug into the GH5 into the monitor, and that worked really good. Sometimes it would say no signal or whatever, so I just needed to turn off the camera and turn it back on, and everything seemed to work just fine. Now again, the main reason I'm using this on my GH5 is because this external monitor does not work. There is some rain damage. I got this camera for a really great price, and I decided I could get one of these monitors instead of using this external monitor there. Now, one of the main reasons I picked up the Canon 80D originally is because it does have that flip out screen, so that when I'm recording, I can see myself right here and see that everything's positioned, that I'm in focus as well. And that's why I went with the GH5, because I get that option with 4K. Now, many people that have a Sony camera don't have the flip out screen. It just has a screen on the back here. So having an external monitor like this Andycine 4K monitor works really great for that. But for my purpose, I really wanted to save some money, so I bought this huge GH5 with the broken screen, and then adding the external monitor on top actually works really well. Now let's look at some of the great features that are on the device. So it really is a full set of features. It has a lot of different options for inputting different things. So you can do an HDMI output if I wanted to display it on another monitor. Over here, you do have the headphone jack, so I could listen to my audio. Again, you have that 12 volt in, and then you have an SD card. Now I tried using the SD card. For whatever reason, I couldn't get my GH5 files to show up on there. Maybe I didn't try pictures, I can't remember. And then on the top here, you have the touch panel that you can turn on and off, or the power, and then you have the menu button down. Now let's say I want to adjust the mount here. I do need to tighten and untighten this and make sure it's pretty firm, or it will wobble around. So now at the top, let's start with this top button here. So again, I can turn off the touch. So right now the touch isn't going to work. Press it again and the touch is on. So some of the cool things you can do is, if I swipe up, we have a bunch of different options here. So I can do focus assist. So that will allow me to see what is in focus with the green outline there. So I can easily turn that on and off. So it is going to show that all your camera display is in focus. And if I go onto the camera and I turn that off, you can then just see exactly what's in focus on the screen. So then we have a false color option. So false color allows me to see if everything is exposed properly. So in the green is pretty much where you would want skin tones and things to be. The yellow means it's a little too exposed. And then the blue is it's a little dark. So this was actually a really nice feature to have, because I'm trying to learn a little bit more about how to have proper exposure, making my footage look a little bit better. So I really like having this feature right on the external monitor. Now next we have the histogram. So a histogram allows you to kind of see the lighting. So if there's too much exposure in certain areas or not enough, this will tell you right there on screen. But I think I like the false color option better, as it gives you a full overlay on the actual screen. Now next we have the audio meter. So, and then here on the side, you can see my audio that's coming through the regular microphone on the camera, even though the GH5 already does have an audio meter right there. And then over here you have a monochrome setting, so you could adjust the light that's coming through. So if you want to see the greens, red. And then lastly over here, you do have a safety meter. So you could have it show this box of what ratio or whatever you're recording in, so that you make sure that you are staying within those lines. Now, another neat feature the touchscreen has is if you swipe up or down, you can change the backlight settings. So there you can see it's at 1. I can go all the way up to 100. The only problem is sometimes I would turn it down thinking that my camera was a little underexposed, but I just realized it was the backlight that was on and off. So that's why it's nice you can turn off the touch. And then on the right side of the screen, if you swipe up and down, you have volume control. So if you're listening to the headphones through this, you can quickly adjust the volume right there. Now the next settings menu you can get to by holding down the settings menu up here, or you can just double tap the screen and it will pull up this menu. And this will give you a lot of other options. So right here at the top, we can adjust all those that we changed at the bottom. And then here we can adjust the safety marker, center marker. And then here we have a few more settings: scan mode, video aspect ratio, anamorphic mode. But mostly I would just use this flip horizontal and flip vertical. So let's say I flip the monitor around, I would need to come in here and adjust both of those so that everything was properly oriented that way. I do wish there was an accelerometer in here so it would automatically do that, but it's nice that you can just quickly go into this menu and adjust that. And then here we have zoom time, freeze, and pixel to pixel. So again, I don't know what all those do. I just mainly use the swap left and right. And then here you have a few more options for the LUT switch, LUT import, color temp, backlight, brightness, contrast, saturation, and hue. Everything looked good like that, so I just kind of left it like that. And then here you have a few more settings. You can change what the wheel does up here at the top. So this is a little wheel that can scroll through the menu easily. You could adjust the language, transparency, and some other settings there. So one thing I really like when I'm using the GH5 is that when I use manual focus, you can see the green lines indicating that things are in focus. So it kind of highlights the areas that are in focus. Right now you can see I'm out of focus, and then there you can see that it adjusts over here that I'm in focus. So on the Andycine camera, I can turn on the focus assist, and there you can see it is a little bit more than what the GH5 offers. So if I change the focus again, now you can see that the camera there is in focus, and I can change it where the TV is in focus. So that does a really good job in adding more of the effect so that I can easily see if I'm in focus or not. So that's a really great enhancement to add to this camera, but if your camera doesn't have a focus assist option like that, this is something that will be really nice to have. So one interesting thing is the monitor does say that it's 4K, and that just means that it can take a 4K input, not necessarily that it is playing in 4K. So that's just really nice that it's always going to work and display the image, instead of if you were to have a 4K output on your camera, it wouldn't be able to do that, but this can definitely do that. Now on screen, you do have the battery indicator up here. All this other stuff is all from my camera. So I can easily go in here and turn that off. So now I just see exactly what my camera is seeing. So if you're planning to shoot outside, definitely recommend putting this on. It snaps on pretty good, just like that. So if you're using this outside, you can definitely see that this offers some great shade protection, so you'd be able to see what is on screen much easier. So for this part of the video, I'm going to do a little comparison of using the flip out camera right on my GH5 versus using the Andycine 4K camera up here on the top, and kind of get my scene all set up so you can see the full process. Okay, the first thing that I'm going to do is make sure that my positioning is correct. Now, when doing this, it's really nice to look at the Andycine camera just because there's so much more space and I can see everything edge to edge, where sometimes on the little screen, things are cut off by the text or whatever it is. I could turn that off, but I usually want that on screen. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now the next thing is to make sure that my focus is right. So you can see that on my GH5 monitor, you can see the little green indicator showing that I'm in focus. Now right now I do have that turned off on the external monitor, so the GH5 could put that out, but let's just turn on the little focus assistant right there. So now you can see that my eyes are showing up in that color, so you can see I'm in focus. And then if I wanted to adjust that easily, it's really easy to see on the Andycine monitor if I'm in focus or not. So there you go, that looks pretty good. And then the next thing I would want to do is adjust my exposure. So over here you can see on the little external camera, it looks pretty bright, but I feel like I get a much better reproduction of the color over here on the Andycine monitor. So let's turn on the false color. All right, so now we want to have our color be about green. That's good exposure on skin. You can see that I got a black shirt on here, so it's showing up in blue, and you can see some other colors there. So right now, I'm thinking that the exposure looks really good. Of course, we will be able to see what the final product looks like, but I do like this false color monitor compared to the little histogram right over here, where it's just showing us the little line with the peak and everything. So let's try and adjust some settings and see how that looks. So let's come over here and adjust the aperture. So we can see I'm turning more pink. And then there I'm turning more yellow, and you can see that down here I am overexposed. So it's actually nice to have both of these at the same time so I can see that light as well as the false color monitor. So again, I want my face to be green. I think a little yellow is okay on the face. Let's do it right there. So this looks pretty good on the external monitor. So let's turn that off and see how we look. So I'm thinking that color looks pretty accurate right now, even though over here I look a little too bright on the flip out monitor. So I can also adjust some of the other settings without having the false color on, and you can see the difference there between some of the settings. All right, let's drop that down just a little bit here. So I think this looks really good on the 4K monitor up there. Now you might have asked, how am I using the other camera to actually see what I'm recording right now? Well, one of the things that I do have is another monitor. So up here, I've plugged this in so I can actually see what I'm doing, but I do have to keep this plugged in. I have to use another cable. So having this external monitor mounted on the screen is definitely much better than having a setup like this. And before I was using a 50-inch TV in here to even see what I was seeing on this display. So it is definitely really nice to have the Andycine A6 Plus to be able to see what I see right there on screen. And so this is what the final shot looks like after adjusting everything from the monitor. I had to change a few other things, putting the mic up here, and I mounted the monitor back on the original GH5. But I can definitely say that this has really improved the way that I take photos. Now, even right now, I can see my external screen right there, but it's much smaller to see than this 5.5-inch screen. And this screen is very crisp and clear and has really great color reproduction. So overall, it has been really nice to have on this camera, especially because the screen doesn't work. But even if you just want to have a better monitor to view everything, it works really well. I didn't even realize how great I liked it until just doing that test where I could see both of them at the same time. And so it's not the same only having the little monitor right now and not looking at this. Now, I really like that false color option. I like the focus assist option that it has on there. My only real complaints on this is the way that you power this. So using another camera battery. So you could buy some external batteries. I have two Canon 80D batteries that I've been using. So I've been swapping between those, but usually it's like halfway through my shoot for the day, I run out of battery and then I have to come and grab the other one, put the other one on the charger. And if I don't have one of those charged, it's pretty useless to be able to have this. So I definitely need to get something that I can hardwire it in. So it's always on, just like my camera right here. I always have this camera plugged in. So I don't even have to use a battery on this one because it stays right here in the office. So there were some weird issues with making sure the battery was on properly. So it actually turned on. And then right now, just in the few hours that I've been recording this, I'm just about dead on the monitor. Now, if the monitor does turn off, the camera will let me know with a sound that when I press the record button, it's going to record. So you'll hear it ding that it's recording. And then when you press it again, you'll hear it that it stopped recording, but you can't see what you're doing. So always make sure that you have an extra battery laying around when using this. So definitely pick up some of those as well. Now, the only other real complaint I have is this hot shoe mount. Just playing with it here, moving it to the other camera, touching some settings, it kind of wiggles like this, and then it slowly works its way off, and then it could easily fall off. So I don't know why that hot shoe just doesn't work good. There's not like a pad or something maybe that needs to be there to make it fit on better. So I highly recommend picking up one of these so that you can have a different hot shoe on there, and then you could mount it right on here, and then you would be able to just flip the screen back and forward so you wouldn't have to go and adjust the horizontal and the vertical settings. So definitely pick up one of these with this camera, and it should be sturdy as well, and you can kind of change the angle that you want at any time. Now, real quick, I do want to test it with my Canon 80D. You need to make sure that you have the mini HDMI that it comes with, and then this will plug right into the monitor over here. And there you can see it's displaying the camera feed right over here. Now, it did turn off my camera feed on the back of the screen, so I probably need to adjust that so I could see them both at the same time, but that definitely works with the Canon 80D. And then again, depending on which camera you use, you can pick up this dummy battery. I know for the Lumix cameras, the Canon 80D, and I believe the Sony cameras as well, you can pick this up. So how this works is, let's take out the battery here from the camera. So you would have the battery plugged into the Andycine monitor, and then you would take this and plug it right into the camera. And then we take the plug and we put it in the 8-volt out. And there you go. Now it is powering the camera right from the battery on the monitor. So that is really nice if you're on the go and you don't want to swap out two batteries. You could just swap out the one monitor battery. So again, that's going to deplete your battery much faster from the battery on the monitor. So definitely have extra batteries laying around if you want to do this. And right there, it just lost power to power my camera because the battery has depleted so much. So overall, this is definitely a product worth picking up. It's made it so easy to make sure that my shots are clean and that everything looks great before I hit record, instead of finding out that I missed something down in the far corner later. You're able to see all of that right on this display. So overall, if you're looking for an external monitor for your Sony camera, or if you just want to have a bigger display for the current camera that you have, the Andycine A6 Plus is definitely something worth checking out. Now, there were those things that I didn't find worked great, but there are some solutions to make it so that this can be the perfect monitor. If you guys have any further questions about this, please let me know in the comments below. And if you would like to see some of the other videos I've made about creating this YouTube channel and some of the products I use, make sure you check out the playlist over here on the side. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.